All right, all right. That really was When the Blues Man Comes to Town. He came to town just now in our ears. Welcome, Johnny Burgin.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Nice to be here.
It's really nice to have you. On that record, were you doing both guitar and harmonica?
No, that's Charlie Musselwhite.
Aha. Thank you. All right, all right.
I could never play that in a million years. I do play harmonica, but not at that level.
Oh, I thank you. I'm glad I asked that.
I thought your harmonica playing was pretty good in Springfield when I heard it just a month or so ago.
I know how to use what I got.
Well, there you go.
Johnny, where did you grow up? Where did you grow up?
Mostly in Starkville, Mississippi.
Really?
I wasn't born in Mississippi, but all my family's from there, and they moved back there when I was 7 or 8.
And when did you pick up the guitar?
About 16.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And you were still there in Mississippi at that time?
Well, I finished high school in Greenville, South Carolina.
Ah.
And then I came to Chicago in 88.
Uh-huh.
What brought you to Chicago?
University of Chicago.
Uh-huh.
Such a youngster.
There's so many blues guys that went to U of C, like Elvin Bishop, Dick Sherman, who was a producer for Alligator Records. He produced Johnny Winter, produced Lonnie Mack, Roy Buchanan, lots of people.
Stud Sterkley used to say that the biggest part of his U of C education was taking the bus through Brownsville and falling off the bus to listen to Big Bill Brunsey and folks like that.
Unbelievable.
Sure.
So, did that happen to you when you were in Hyde Park? Or how did
Well,
you
there
pick
was
up on
lots of blues guys around. There was lots of exposure to blues.
So sorry.
Were you around when Butterfield was there? In that neighborhood?
No.
That was earlier.
Yeah.
But Charlie Musselwhite you met later, because I remember he was around in the early '60s. I remember running into him at the Jazz Record Mart on Wabash, down in the basement there, the old days.
I think he worked at Jazz Record Mart for a bit. So did Iggy Pop. He worked at Jazz Record Mart.
Who were your influences? Your biggest influences musically?
You know, when I came to Hyde Park, I was on college radio and
like us.
Yeah, WHPK. and I met a guy, Dave Waldman, who brought me out to the West Side, and I saw a Tail Dragger, and I was already playing, and I had already seen a lot of blues in South Carolina as a high school student. Mm-hmm. There was a place where there was all ages shows, and I saw it at Clearwater.
Oh wow!
I saw Guitar Junior, the guy who played with Muddy Waters, Luther Guitar Junior Johnson. He was great. He was like a perfect West Side blues man. I saw a lot of guys, but once I went to the West Side of Chicago and saw Tail Dragger, I had thought I was a good player, and I played a little bit. And of course, it was a total disaster. I realized I had to throw everything away and start all over and really.
And
really
what age
it.
were you at that? Were you in college?
I was about 20 or something.
Yeah, that's terrific.
So what was the switch from going to the U of C to becoming a blues man?
I was doing it in UC.
Yeah.
And, like Big Smoky.
Did they have classes in blues, or were you studying to be what?
No. Good question. But, and I even quit for a while, and I came back because I was walking down the street, and I realized that I was never going to finish if I didn't just go back to school right away. But I was playing every Thursday at Lily's.
All right.
While I was still in school.
On Lincoln Avenue.
Yeah, and that was really fun. And we didn't have a bass player, which was a godsend. Because
you had to cover that.
Yeah, and that's really good. So first,
that's where you got your high-low playing technique. Okay.
Good. I spent the first few years just playing the bass lines on guitar with no bass player, and then I went to playing rhythm guitar with Tail Dragger, and he had really strong players with him like Lurie Bell and Johnny B. Moore. And then I finally sort of grew into being the only guitarist, but not singing, with Sam Lay and with Tail Dragger. And then finally, it's time to do my own band. I just couldn't live as a sideman anymore, mentally.
So your first record was on Delmark?
Yeah.
I love that. Talk about full circle here.
But I did a lot of sideman stuff on Delmark first.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted to say, when I was a college student, there was a guy, Big Smoky Smothers, who sold ice cream on the quads. Huh. And he played with Howlin' Wolf. He's on some records with Howlin' Wolf. He wrote some songs that Muddy Waters recorded, and he made a great record. Big Smokey plays the Back Porch Blues on the King label.
Wow.
That had Freddie King on it. It's a great blues record, and a lot of people still do his songs today. And
Say that name again, because
Big Smokey Smothers. There was
Never
also
heard
a
it.
Little Smokey Smothers, who was also a great guitar player. I missed them both. And, we would just chat. And then LV Banks played on 53rd Street in front of Jesselson's Fish Market. James, I know you remember that. And I still do one of his songs, Teddy Bear. I do it every night, just about. He was a great, neighborhood bluesman. There were still lots of neighborhood bluesmen back then, and he was kind of the neighborhood guy.
So then, you left Chicago to go to the West Coast, right?
Correct.
And what's it like doing the blues on the West Coast, out of Chicago? I'm sure they love it, just like we do.
Well, in 2013, I started. That's when I saw this guy Aki Kumar on YouTube. So I just dropped him a line, and he
Love this.
He said, I said, maybe we should do some gigs, because I really liked what he was doing. He's a really dynamic harp player, and I could just tell he was focused, and I could just tell he was going to do something. I had a good feeling, and so he asked around about me, and they're like, "Oh man, Rockin' Johnny's back! Get him out here." So I started going there, and touring, and people just really liked it. And every time I went back to California, it got bigger and better. And finally, he got me a nice gig, and I said, "I'm just going to drive there and stay." So that was in September 2016, and of course, I always miss Chicago. I lived here for 28 years, and got my career going here, and got a lot of fans and friends here. And it's a special. It'll always be a special place for blues. But
We're going to hear a little bit of "I Got to Find a Woman" right now from
sure.
the new CD.
Sure.
She don't want to pay me no mind. Oh, mama always told me, wait for a good man someday. Oh, mama always told me, gotta wait for a good man someday. If you pack a man too fast, oh, there's a price you gotta pay. Oh yeah.
Okay, right.
But I got to find me a woman
That wants to love me all night.
Yes, I've got to find me a woman
That wanna love me all night.
I already felt really tired.
Cause the one I got now, that girl is out of sight.
Well, I gotta find me a man who works a day job all day.
Works a day job all day.
I gotta find me a man that works all long day.
Now, Ray, I can't do that.
But the one I got now, all he wants to do is play. Come on, yeah.
Ooh, that's from the new CD, Johnny Burgin Live. And how did you get back to Delmark to do this particular collection after 20 years?
My wife Stephanie we've been working together, and she pulled it off because it's a new management at Delmark, and they had a lot going on, and she pulled it off. So here I am.
And part of that is leading to a big tour. Tell us about this tour you're going to do, where you're going to be gone from the States for quite a while.
I've been on tour for the last 3 years, pretty much. Yeah, I've done like 250 nights a week, mostly on the road. I haven't been right now. My wife and I live in Portland, Oregon, which is, I know you heard the female singer on that last track. That's Ray Gordon, and
She was wonderful.
yeah, she's a fabulous singer. She's won many Muddy Awards and from the Cascade Blues Society.
She's not
out
from
there.
Chicago, though, right?
She's from Portland, Oregon.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Go figure.
Yeah, really.
So how many countries and dates will you be taking on this next leg of your tour? I want you to talk about
staying in the
Japan.
United States for the rest of the year. We just got back from Rome. I did 7 nights in Rome.
Wow.
Yeah, I went to Europe twice this year, 3 times. Wait. Anyway, I
He's
did
lost
about,
count, folks.
I
He's
did about-
counting on his hands, and he's lost count.
I did about 10 countries this year,
Terrific.
and probably 17, 20 states.
Why the fascination with Chicago blues in Europe and Japan?
This music's just too good to go away, and people just love it. My wife's phrase is mesmerized clusters, so it's a small audience, but they really
Nice
care.
phrase.
And I quit music for eight years or so, and that was back in the that's back around 2002. Came back in 2009, and when I came back,
We'll
my
call
fans
those
were
the lost years.
yeah, it was on hiatus. And when I came back, to the point about the blues audience being loyal, my fans were still there. I mean, I arranged shows with one phone call, and people came out. The DJs were still there, and
Rich.
I basically picked up where I left off.
Sweet.
So you can't say that about. I mean, a pop star couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they'd be worse off than ever.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's something about the blues, and it's worldwide. People like it all over. I mean, it's not lots of people, but they really care.
Tell us a little bit more about the collaboration with Charlie Musselwhite. Who is he? Why was this important? We heard a little bit of his playing earlier, but
Charlie's been really supportive of me. He liked what I'm doing and just wanted to. He did it he just responded to it. So we just had a chemistry for playing together. But he's one of the greatest harp players living, absolutely. And he's got a real connection with the real blues history from Chicago, and also from Memphis, and then from the West Coast. So he's like a real treasure at this point.
Yeah, he works hard.
when you're on the road and traveling to other countries, but come back home, whether it's here in Chicago or Portland, who do you go out and listen to? Who do you want to hear these days, young or old?
There's a lot of people in Europe I really love, and there's a lot of people in Japan I really love. My wife just produced this record, No Border Blues, featuring the kind of the cream of the crop of the Japanese blues scene. And I'm real fans of a lot of these players, and I'm fans of a lot of players in Europe too. One guy I like that's here in Chicago is Mississippi Gabe Carter.
Oh yeah,
I think he's a very powerful player.
yeah. We
one of
had
my
him
favorites.
when we owned the HeartLand Cafe, and we had him at the Red Line Tap on Sunday afternoons for a while.
Great.
We did.
You know, I played at the Heartland Cafe with a guy, Slim Nelson.
Aha.
I don't know if you remember him.
I don't know who did the booking on that,
I
but
remember him,
We cannot
we were
remember.
probably there.
We cannot remember half of what happened at the Heartland Cafe.
It was a wonderful venue.
90%.
really was.
Slim for sure.
Say that again.
I remember Slim for sure. He was only around for like a minute, but I remember when he was around. I used to see him around Rogers Park all the time. Harmonica player.
Yeah. Sorry, John, you can't hear what James is saying in there because we didn't give you the earphones. But Stephanie, I'm curious. You produced this No Border Blues, so you're a producer.
Yes, I produced it in Japan with Johnny and 11 musicians, and Johnny, we over our Japan tour, we met a lot of musicians. But I also produced Howlin' at Greaseland, which was up for a BMA for traditional. That was, Johnny and I collaborated on that as
Sweet.
well. So that was up for a BMA 2 years ago.
Such a team you two are.
Yes.
That's great.
He doesn't like to be called the music director, but he, so
Why not say something that he doesn't like, since he's sitting there and you've got the mic. So
What I always like to say is I build the frame, the house frame, and then the musicians come in and decorate the rooms and how they want. So when we were in Japan, he had known a lot of these musicians before, and we sort of collectively decided who he wanted on bass. And the nice thing is there's women on it. We have a woman bass player, a woman drummer, a woman guitar player. So we ran it in Japan. There's a lot of expertise women in the music. So Delmark is also going to be producing that. So that will be coming out next year.
Sweet.
Sometime next year, and we'll go on another Japanese tour But,
Stephanie, thank you for, I don't know your last name.
Tice.
All right, Stephanie Tice, thanks for stepping in and answering that question. Sure. Johnny Burgin, your current, it's the full circle, as we mentioned before, starting with Delmark in Chicago, and now you're releasing this album that we've just heard at least one song from, right? And I think we're going to have some live music on our way out of the show, but before that happens, talk about, cutting your first album and now 20 years later, a live album.
Thanks. That's a nice question. Thank you.
Okay.
When I did that record, that was in November of '97, and I had Tail Dragger on it, Sam Lay, and this wonderful singer Robert Plunkett, who's a drummer. He actually played with Elmore James. Anyway, I had 3 goals when I was starting to play music. I wanted to go to Europe, I wanted to make a CD, and I wanted to have gigs every weekend.
That's perfect. And did you manifest this?
I did. And in fact, I went to Europe for the first time and completed that CD on the same week. And that was really exciting.
Pretty magical.
It was a great opportunity, and it was because I'd already been involved in some successful projects as a sideman, like the Jimmy Burns comeback CD called Leaving Here Walking. It won all these awards and sold a lot, and I was a big part of that. Jimmy's really one of the best singers in Chicago. And he's just one of these guys who can sing the phone book. And so anyway, because of the success of that, Bob Kester kept coming to the Smoke Daddy, which is where I had this residency, which really put me on the map. He said, "Okay, your singing's still really terrible, but let's do something." So that was my offer, and so that was the first time around.
That was kind of the vibe when we had him on the show here.
Yeah, I believe it. And so that was the offer, and then nowadays with the live record, I sort of grew into myself. Like it just takes a long time to really play this kind of music with authority, and it took a long time for me. It was a long gradual learning curve of acculturating myself into it. So I kind of feel like I'm a finished product now.
When you're putting together a live concert or putting together a set, Johnny, how do you decide? I mean, you compose your own pieces from time to time, right? How do you decide which of your pieces to use versus covers of other people's work or classics?
Good question. I just try to read the audience and the environment. I mean, when I was in Japan, I played a lot of real traditional stuff, and they loved it.
Because they love it.
Yeah, because Eddie Taylor went to Japan. There were people who saw him, and so I play some Eddie Taylor because I love that style, and they're thrilled. So it all depends. Like when I did the CD release party the other day at Martyrs, I pretty much stuck to the CD and had a list and all that. But it took me years before I would even make a list.
It's undeniable. It's plain to see that you are an artist committed to your artistry, and we're very grateful to have you here.
That's very kind words. Thank you so much.
It's real. We've seen a lot of artists here, and you stand out. So I'm wishing you the best of luck on your tour upcoming. But we're also going to hear you play a little live, right?
Yeah, why don't you get your guitar ready while we make some end of the show announcements?
There you go.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
We first of all, we want to thank all of our guests today, and that would be Diana Parker and Jessa Finch, and now Johnny Burgin. And next week we're going to have Margaret Frisbee of Friends of the River. We're going to have Imara Alexandra, Public Narrative, the Turkle Awards, and the incomparable Chacha Jimenez, co-founder of the Young Lords organization. I want to thank everybody who helped make the show possible. Our intern Coco, Katie Hogan, who will be taking off and going to India, and we're going to miss her the good vibe that she adds to the show and the little quips and stuff.
I'll be sending you good vibes from India.
And
Michael and I will struggle through.
And we thank Tom, too. And we, of course, encourage you all to do good in the world, because the world needs all the good that we do. All power to the people. So, Johnny Burgin, take it away. Tune it up.
California Blues.
Wow, okay. That was fast.
Yep. It's all good. Woo. Ow.
All right, here we go. I guess should I?
Yeah,
hear
do
them?
whatever you need.
I went down to Santa Cruz. Stared out at the sea. I went down to Santa Cruz. Stared out at the sea. I was worried and crying. When the world is going to become a me. When I left Chicago, I headed for the Frisco Bay. When I left Chicago, headed for the Frisco Bay. I had a playmate out there that really loved to play. I rode from Sacramento down to San Jose. Yeah, I rode from Sacramento down to San Jose. The California women helped me on my way. I had to leave Sonoma when the fires were racing through. Yeah, I had to leave Sonoma when the fires were racing through. I would have gone to Ventura. That was burning up too. California's mighty pretty, but my money done run out. California's mighty pretty, my money done run out. I'm gonna move up the country, see what's it all about.
Wow. That was great.
Thank you.